Glad they put my name out there then.
Looks
Good
like we're
evening,
live. Hi,
everyone.
everybody.
Good evening, everyone. We are back with the leadership conversation tonight. I am still with and glad to be with my colleagues Edwina Cogdell, Delpha D, and Mr. David Gallagher. The other ladies are Miss also. We don't want to make sure we say that as well. We're here tonight talking about a very important topic. We are going to give people time to chime in. I'm going to go on to Facebook and make sure I'm aware of who might be leaving comments. If we don't see your comments, it's not because we're ignoring you. We will respond to your comments at the end or afterwards if we don't see them during the broadcast. But please do submit your questions, your comments. We certainly want to hear from you. How come this is not letting me there? Okay. We want to hear from you and also you on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, welcome, welcome, welcome to tonight's leadership conversation. We are talking about a topic that we've seen in the news, heard in different workplaces. It's all over across social media. What is the workplace going to look like now that more people have vaccinations and they're open up and the states are opening up? What is that going to look like? Are people ready to go back? Do they want to go back? Will they go back? All those good questions that people are asking. So, the the topic is tonight, and I have a screen behind me that I'm actually sharing. So, if I turn away from you, it's not because I'm ignoring you or trying to go away from you. Is not where I used to sit. So whether it means physical, I'm not going to be where I used to sit because we're going to have social distancing, or because where I sit is going to feel and sound very differently because of all the things that are now influencing the workplace. Um, whether it's having a sense of belonging and making sure we make sure everyone belongs, whether they're inside the office or still working remotely, the whole social issues and racial issues that we've experienced over the last year and a half, and employment engagement was something we were talking about way before even COVID hit, and now it's even heightened awareness, right? And then innovation, how will that be impeded or heightened because of our new place in the workplace? And then all connecting with that is the leader team connection. How do you maintain that momentum? Who's talking to you tonight? Um, hold on. We have I have my colleagues with us again, and I will yield the floor to them and ask each of them to share about who they are and something about what they do. So, Delpha, if you would go first.
Hi, I'm Delpha DiGiacomo. I have delphad.com, and I'm a blogger and a leadership coach.
And
So, hi.
go ahead.
So I'm David Gallagher, and I have a business called Leadership by Design, which is leadership workshops, leadership development, um, team facilitation, etc. Good to be here.
And Edwina is going to share
Hi,
about.
I'm Edwina Cogdell. I'm the other half of Destiny Speak, and welcome again tonight. I'm happy to be here.
Edwina, did you say you were the better half? Is that what I heard?
I am definitely not the better half, David. I'm just half.
I would say she's a better half. And what we do in Destiny Speak, I'm Yvette Owens. We also we are really working with leaders to help them create healthy cultures for their people where people can thrive. And so those cultures are really embracing, not only embracing as we see businesses today, but really implementing diversity and inclusion from the top to the bottom. So it's an intricate and really implemented throughout the entire organization, really being woven in organization. And we do that also through leadership development as well. So you can see we've come together really because we've all have an interest in making sure leaders today become better leaders tomorrow. So that's who we are. That's who's talking to you tonight. And what we're talking about tonight. So I shared just to kick off the conversation, put together some statistics, some facts, so that we could at least ground the conversation on what most people think about when you talk about going back to work. And that is, will we be half home? Will we be half in the office? How will that look? Most of the people, there's a couple of surveys. Some surveys say that some people want to be able to work at home, and the majority wants to be able to work at home, but also have some time to work outside of the home, maybe not necessarily in their office before, but they want some time in both places. Salesforce did a survey, and 64% of the workers said the same thing. They would like to continue to work at home, but also have some time outside of the office in another space, in another workplace, right? And then 74% of our Gen Z population prefer working from home. They prefer working from home or splitting the time from home and work. And that Gen Z, they are people who were born between 1995 and 2010. So we'll pause there to the group. Does any of this surprise you? Are you hearing anything different than what these two surveys are revealing to us?
I think surveys are very interesting because it's all in who responds to them, right? Mm-hmm. So I always take them a little bit with a grain of salt, and then I compare them to the population I'm around, and then what I'm hearing in the community, things like that. To me, this is not surprising. And I'm somebody that for most of her career has worked at some level of what this is, which is hybrid. What is surprising to me and what I'm hearing is that for folks that had never worked a flex schedule or a hybrid schedule, they're very much enthralled by the idea of working from home. I personally can work either space. My preference is now that I'm a little bit older and I'm established and I feel comfortable, I'd rather work from home. And I actually am very happy with the technology. I know some folks are not, but it's also part of your living circumstances. I don't live alone. My husband lives with me. We have friends nearby. Even through the pandemic, we had small circles that we interacted with. So I didn't have the loneliness that some people had. And so the other part that I've heard is that there are some folks that are itching to get back into the office, itching to get back into the world and just interact with people because they miss that so much.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I would say that this does not surprise me at all. I used to tell senior leaders who did not like the concept of people working from home, I said, well, wait 10 years, wait 15 years, it's going to be there. And I think all the pandemic did was to speed that up, because now we were all forced to do it. And the benefit of it actually was that we were all forced to do it together, which means that we all got to see, oh, okay, this can work. May not always be the best. We may not all have the best technology. I get it, but we could actually do this. And I think we will end up in much more of a hybrid world. It does not surprise me either that Gen Z is thinking that, well, of course, that's how I grew up. What do you mean? Why wouldn't I? Well, I can do work sitting on my couch on my phone.
Exactly.
And that's just their mindset because that's how they grew up. It's not like how we grew up. But we've all realized if you could just learn some technology, you can do it. And it actually works out fine. I think one thing we could forget, though, is for the four of us who know each other, we could feel like, oh, we can do this remotely. but that's because we already have built trust together.
Yes.
If I'm brand new to the company and I'm brand new to working with the three of you, it's like, okay, well, who is this person? And how am I going to trust him or trust her? And that's going to take time. So we cannot excuse the fact that being in person, stopping by the water cooler, in the hallway, before the meeting, after the meeting, etc., means a huge thing as far as building trust and a friendship with each other. Um, Doing it over Zoom all day long is like, oh, the call's done. Okay, we're off. Okay, well, so we've got to be cognizant of that going forward.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be like the hottest conversation because I don't agree. I don't agree, Dave. And I'll use myself as an example. I have worked remote most of my career. Remote meaning that my closest peers were states away from me.
Mhm.
And so in order to integrate to the group that I'm part of now, it was all remote except for maybe twice a year we got together.
Mhm.
And it's really in how you build the culture of your place that lets you become friends and collaborative. I will tell you, I'm excited to see, some of my daytime coworkers. We are actually going to get together. I think that's going to be awesome. But then I want to pack them up and send them home. I love them that much. Love them like family. See them for a little bit, pack them up and send them home. But I grew up that way. And I think that's the thing with the Gen Z people, that they grew up that way. They grew up distance and with technology and not the need to see each other and building relationships through digital mediums that don't require that physical connectivity. And I'll fully confess, I used to be 100% remote when I was an independent contractor. In my 30s, I missed the connection. I went back into the office. Let's say I'm 20 odd years older almost. And now I don't want to go back. I might want to just stay home. But it's interesting to me, the conversation of the water cooler or not. Is there such a thing as a digital water cooler?
So,
And I would,
Delphi, I think that's a great point. And I didn't mean to imply that it was impossible, but I do think it just takes a little bit longer.
It does.
yeah, we've had a couple of new people join our team, and I think again, one gentleman I know has really interacted with me, and we've been really talking. I just think it's also the personality. It's a different it's a different environment, a different culture, a different way of connecting, and we've like hit it off really well. So I do see where some people are saying, because like we had an intern during the summer who said it would have been really nice to meet some people in the office, kind of thing. So this is a younger person, right? But this guy now, my new colleague now is like, hey, we share family things, we talk and everything, and it's working. So I think it also has to do with your personality, and not only your personality, but how you're willing to step out there and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And Yvette, I think that's an important point about the future of our workplace. If we're going to be more remote in some kind of hybrid version, it takes not more effort, because the effort sounds
Just
it
different
almost,
effort.
It's
different.
intentional. You need to be
Yes,
intentional.
it's purposeful. So
Right.
I may
Yeah.
not see you in the hallway, but that does not stop me from reaching out to you and saying, let's have a quick call, let's have a video call, etc. And if we work at that, I think we can meet where Delpha was talking about much more quickly. But
Mhm.
it's going to take a different mindset, because it's not just going to happen as easily as it would in an office environment. We need to be proactive about it, and that's fine. Uh,
And nor did having coffee just happen really in the office, right? You had to say,
Yeah.
put time on people's calendars, say, oh, I'm going to step away. Hey, let's meet over here, or things like that. And I do think that people are taking better advantage of, you know, the happy hour or the time away from office. Let's grab dinner, and let's go get together that way. For those who are willing to still go out,
Yeah.
because there's some people who still not. I've heard of some people still not going out and
Yeah.
dining yet. So, Edwina, did you want to jump in?
Well, I mean, I would just say that I was doing work from home, remote work, long before it got popular or was in fashion, because I saw it as a way to retain staff, younger mothers that were dealing with, childcare issues. And they would come into, it was a hybrid approach. They come in 2 days a week and work home 3 days a week. And that was back in the 1990s. So I saw where, when David said, he talked about how things were going to evolve. I knew it was going to go that way. I was recently on a call with a company called Degreed, which is a learning management
Hmm.
company. And there was people on there from all over the world. And the question came up around the, remote working and that type of thing. And people were just like chiming in on the chat and just saying, I am healthier because I'm having lunch at home. I'm in better shape because I have time to work out. I have had time to be more in touch with my spirituality, whether they're doing yoga or prayer or whatever, meditation, because they're doing that during the time that they would be commuting to work. So there were a couple of people that, came in talking about, yeah, I can't wait to get back. But for the most part, I would say 80% of the people on that call were talking about the advantages that they had gotten from this work at home situation, so it is happening regardless. So I think we just have to get with it and get the advantages that are there.
That, I think you make such a great point in the idea that an employee, a well-balanced employee, is a better employee than one that is not. And if you're pushing work-life balance as part of your employer benefits and as part of the leadership conversation, I think this is something to really think about. And I hear you on the commute. I've had some folks say, I don't want to do the commute, and I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. I want to wake up at 7 and be comfortable and get dressed up for work because I'm going to be on camera, but with my cup of coffee, do my thing, get some extra time. I don't know. It's interesting.
And David, the interview that you shared with us as we were
Yeah.
preparing was really interesting. I really could appreciate the woman's who they interviewed, her journey, because she went from, oh my God, it's so much hectic, so much hassle, it's so much this going
Yep.
on, that going, I don't even know. But once she got her rhythm
Yep.
and how her day was going to go and how her family was going to manage. She's saying, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to go back. And if I do, it'll be just for an occasion when I have to go back. But all the
Yep.
hustle and bustle that she was experiencing in the beginning, because it was something new, right? She had to shift to that new place. But now her family has a rhythm that they're enjoying, that they would have never gotten to if she had to keep going at the pace she was going in the workplace she was going to. So I appreciate what this is all brought to. And I'm not minimizing the loss that we've incurred,
Yeah.
people losing family members. I've lost family members. That is not, this is not to minimize that. But there is some good that came out of this, and people are closer, they're taking better advantage and being grateful for the people that are around them, whether they're family or friends and things like that, and better use of their time, like Edwina was sharing. I'm now, I did it this morning. I got my grandson off to school. His father came to pick him up, take him off to daycare. I worked out and I was able to start work on time. That would not have happened, let me tell you. If I had to go to the office, something would have had to give.
I will
So
tell you, I had to go in to get some good stuff done, right? I did not mind at all. It was so strange waking up at 6 a.m. to get ready to go, and then driving in, and like the whole thing was weird to me. And it's just habit, right? That habit is broken for me, so my rhythm is off. But I don't think I was paying attention to my old habits as I am now, because they're now like strange and a little alien to me.
Sure. What
I
they say?
think
Go ahead, Edwina.
one of the things that I do miss, I mean, and I think it depends on the type of organization that you work
Yeah.
in. Like for me, working in learning and org development and
Mm.
being diversity and inclusion, I loved those conversations that I just overheard,
Hmm.
or I
Yes.
brought into a particular meeting to discuss something. And that's not happening as much from a remote perspective.
Right.
And that was like a lot of learning that took place for me, just hearing about different client work and that type of thing that I'm not being able to be a part of because we're remote. So the other thing I missed was going down and having breakfast prepared for me. You know,
Right.
who's
Right.
gonna make my omelets? You know,
Yeah. At the cafeteria.
where can I grab lunch? What kind of establishment is this?
And you know, I thought about that too, and I was like, how do I really bring this up and not? Well, I'm just gonna bring it. I mean, I appreciate the technical staff, the people who are around who can help me with my technical troubles, the facility management people, because I'm like, dang, I use this much trash every day, so I'm having to clean out my it's just those things that we took for granted that I have a whole new appreciation for. And
Yes.
those omelets were good, Edwina. They were seriously good.
Yeah.
So, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the hybrid conversation. Are we going back in the workplace? Are we not? When we go there, what's it going to be like? And we've been sharing and talking about some statistics, some pros and cons, which we've been mentioning. Many people have found that being at home and remote has been increasing productivity, and they've had more flexibility, things like that, right? They've been able to reduce costs, operation costs, and redefining performance employee management. And then there's been those challenges where people have felt isolated. Some folks might have felt like if we go back into that hybrid situation where some are home and some are not, are there going to be some that are going to be considered first class citizens and those that are home second class citizens? If I do come in and because of the challenges that people are having with their kids' schedules at school or daycare, how that's working out now, and then my work schedule, is that going to be deemed or seen as a disruptor? The whole casual conversation happening with senior staff happening in the hallways. If I'm one choosing to work at home, I don't get those conversations. So therefore, am I losing out on opportunities that I don't get to see or get to have because I'm not in the office at the right moment, because we may have to go someone these days and someone those other days. And this is very different for different sectors. So, because when you think of people who are manufacturing, I listened to an interview not long ago, and these folks have to go out and they have to literally they work with their clients on site. They might be contractors and things like that, so they've actually had to formulate associations with other clients because they had to let some of their staff go, right? And so, but they're now ready to pick up jobs and they'll bring people on as the business starts to increase. So it's a real delicate balance between getting the job, bringing on the right staff, but taking on the jobs that come in and being able to fulfill them. So I now have to partner with other people who I used to compete with, but now they might have the ready staff at the right time that I get the contract to be able to come in, step in, so we both get to take advantage of that opportunity, which then increases my ability to bring back more people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
No? Edwina?
No, I mean,
So
the
here's
markets
the
are
thing.
different. The market is definitely different.
Right.
The level of collaboration, depending on your sector, is certainly different. And I do hear you on having the competitor advantage versus competitor collaboration. I think
Correct.
that is a bigger lesson learned. But to go back to your slide for a second, in the disruptor sector, that part is so interesting to me, because that is a question that keeps coming up, whether you're new or you're somebody that has been on your journey and you're trying to become the influencer and become somebody that's noticed and become somebody that maybe folks want to promote. Do you go back to the office? What if there is no office to go back to? And how do you evolve your career? It's such a big question right now. And I think I just watched Metro Hartford Alliance and a conversation about not just diverse leadership, but diverse leadership in this digital age. And how can you, if you're a company that is looking to make sure that you have clear representation, ensure that that happens when there may be some people that are invisible because you haven't noticed them before. And to David's point, if you haven't built the relationship in the first place, how are you going to find them to interact with them? What do you guys think about those things?
Well, I think it goes back to what we said earlier. You have to be intentional. So as a leader, do you not know the people that are on your staff that you can have skip level meetings with, that you can meet up with, on Zoom or however you want to do it? I mean, I guess I'm struggling with the word invisible. How can you have invisible people in your organization?
And yet people feel invisible.
Okay, so you're saying people feel invisible.
Yeah, people feel invisible and they're not getting the calls, or they're not getting the opportunities to sit in front of a senior leader in this remote world, because we've just kind of retracted from that water cooler talk, or that running into in the hallway, or that coffee catch up.
So you're bringing up a good point, which takes us to that next slide, and we can talk about all these in any order or combine. That new work place, influencers having a sense of belonging, right? Am I really feeling like I belong in this place? Again, the impact of all that the people of color have gone through over the last year, is that going to influence the workplace engagement, innovation, and leader team connection? So to Edwina's point, if I brought somebody in new, I, as a leader, I think should make sure I go step above and beyond to help that person get acclimated, become, get really entrenched, if you will, or introduced to the whole organization and get to a place where it's feeling comfortable, and then that person can then take it from there. We can't leave people alone, especially when it's in a hybrid environment, and they may not get to interact with everyone at the same point in time.
Well, I'm facilitating a class where these are new employees who have never been in an office. They were interviewed through Zoom. They were hired through Zoom, and now they're interacting through Zoom. They've never met the team. They've never physically met the manager. And a lot of them talk about, to your point, Delpha, how do I become ingrained? How do I get welcomed in? How do I bring in, and when they throw those when they throw those questions out to me, which are very real statements, it's a real issue. And the only thing you really can do is start reaching out to the people that are on your list, that are on your staff. And that's something that an individual contributor can do. I think hopefully you were at least introduced to the team. And so then you can start reaching out, and I talk to them about various groups that they might want to look at, joining and that type of thing. It's going to take some effort, because it's not as simple as when you join the company and all of a sudden they start parading you from cubicle to cubicle. Not that you remember after they parade you who those people are. You don't remember who they are, but at least you get an opportunity to see them every day. So I think there has to be some intentionality around it.
So to that point, was it last week or the week before, I worked with a senior leadership team for a small business in Atlanta, Georgia. And I wasn't quite fully vaccinated, so I wasn't real enthused about traveling, but that's an aside. I'm fully vaccinated now. But anyway, um, they're struggling with all the same things. How do we do this? How do we do this with people we've known for years? How do we do this with new people, brand new to our company? How do we onboard people? How do we engage them in our culture? So I said, okay, one of the things I want to do, and this is around your comment, Edwina, about being intentional. I said, I don't want to come down there as a complete stranger. So, and I know consultants do that kind of thing. I don't agree with that, but I said, let me have a Zoom call for at least a half an hour with each of the leadership team members. So we had a Zoom call, so I could recognize everybody I met in the hotel lobby, at the business, and it felt like, okay, yeah, I know who you are. I got it. And we've had a conversation already, and maybe that's to Delpha's point about you don't need to be in the hallway to develop trust.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that as long as you're intentional about it. So it takes some different behaviors, but they need to be intentional behaviors.
Yeah, and I think it's also an opportunity for us to share. We talk about sponsorship, and we've talked about that before too. But as a leader, who the key people are that you would want, that it's important for people to get in front of, right? Now you have to share that and really sponsor them for getting in front of those key people, at least at the minimum for that initial introduction, so they know. And it helps you too as that leader. This is the choice I made that I think is going to add to our culture, to be able to add to our success. This person I have faith in bringing into the organization to do that. So make sure that they get in front of it, whether you give it to them individually to do that, or you set some time up with you and the person so you all can talk about all the things, not only what that person's bringing to the organization, but where you really expect them to be utilized and where they're going to be able to help. So
that's
again,
that's a
it's
shift.
intentional.
That's a
It is a
shift
shift
in
because people
leadership culture.
they hold their sponsorship and stakeholders very close to their chest, right? Well,
Yeah,
now you have to really, again, be intentional and
and share.
share.
Yeah,
And I wanted to address that. What was it? First class citizen or second class citizen? Is
Right.
that
yeah,
up on your slide? If you think about when the organizations that I've spoken with, a lot of employees talk about, especially in really large organizations,
Hmm.
how they feel if they're not in the headquarters. Even when
Right.
we were in the office, they felt like second class citizens
Hmm.
being out in some type of field office for larger
yep.
organizations. So that was sort of going on to begin with. And also, people, when we were in the office and there was a couple of people that worked at home, sometimes they feel like the second class citizen.
Hmm.
So, this is a leadership conversation. So it's really within the hands of the leader to make sure that that individual, if it is a hybrid setup and you've got some people in the office and some people working from home, that you don't allow that second class citizen stuff to stick.
Right.
Yeah, and it could be really easy. I will tell you, one of the best things that you can do if you're hybrid and your office is hybrid, maybe don't go back to that conference room so quickly. Don't have a couple of people in a conference room and then a couple of people on the phone, because those phone people are not going to have the same opportunity to interact as the small group of people that may be in the conference room. Maybe consider, yes, have the Zoom call from your office, because everybody being on the call creates equality at the table
Yes.
versus some people in the conference room and some people on the phone. So just be very mindful of that, because we're going to be real quick to say our new normal, and new normal looks like the old normal. We're back in
Yes.
the conference room. Maybe we wipe it down some more, and maybe there's more space, but you're going to have some folks that are going to be on video camera. they're going to have a slight delay. They're not going to be able to react as fast. They're not going to be able to interject as fast. So just try it out. For equality's sake, go back, but go back slow and really think about inclusion of people in general in a space like this. I think that it's number one. I personally, all of my meetings are going to stay Zoom. If we're in the office and we're going to do a one-on-one, that's fine. But as far as team meetings are concerned, my team has always been remote. When Zoom happened to us, best thing, everybody's on camera, everybody's on the phone. It's an equal playing field and everybody has an equal voice.
Right.
So
And you can do that even
high
if,
five. Here's a
five.
virtual high five, Delpha.
and
So
you can do
Delphi,
that
just
even
so
if you
know,
get into the conference room, right? That can happen even if you go to the conference room. Everybody's on Zoom, right? If you happen
Yeah,
to
if
do
you're the
that.
lonely person in the conference room, just stop, stay at your desk.
Well, I'm saying if there's a portion of the group in
Oh
the
yeah.
office, you could still do Zoom because the people, now you're looking at the people. And the other thing that came to mind is as soon as you cross the threshold of the conference room, make sure you turn on the conversation
Turn on
for
the
everybody.
camera so that they can be
Cameras,
part of the
everybody. Yeah.
chatter.
Right, right. Because we know there's a meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting, and people lose out on that. It's hard to have people to participate in the meeting in the hallway on the way to the meeting, but at least try to include them as much as possible.
Yep.
David,
David?
before I switch gears, I wanted to let you jump in there.
So Delphi, just so you know, there was a small animal walking around on your behind
That
you.
little wolf-looking thing.
Yeah.
The dog decides that it's her space up here today. So
So you remind me of sometimes people react, and I've heard these comments from some leaders. It's like, "Oh, this is a different world," and some of these leaders have not ever experienced remote leadership before. But it has nothing to do. Some of it has nothing to do with remote leadership. So my point being, I was an HR lead for a national, countrywide organization. So we always had people in the room and we had people on the phone for a senior team meeting. We worked very hard to treat all the people on the phone as equal as the
Absolutely.
people sitting in the room. And that's kind of common sense to me. It's polite, it's good manners, it's respectful of all the leaders that are on your team. None of that changes when you're now all remote,
Right.
or that half of you are remote. So it's no different, really. So it should not be a surprise. It's just treat everybody as though they're equal participant. I don't care where they live, where they sit, whether they're remote, but you need to work harder, especially if you're new. If you and your organization is new at remote leadership or remote workforce, you will all, and I say all, I mean leaders and employees, need to work harder to make sure that we're staying connected.
Right. And a part of that way is making sure that everybody knows that you want everyone to be heard, right? Because those on the call can sit back and just think that, oh, I can just sit back. But no, we want to hear your voice too. So even if that means, and it might feel like you're calling someone out, but really it's not. It's really like your voice is just as important here. So it's a matter of, how does this feel to you? What thoughts do you have? Those kind of things. So people are drawn, and don't wait till the last minute before you get ready to hang up to do that.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're interjecting that along the way so that they know, we know you're still there and we care about what you're thinking. And that's how you can keep that leadership team connection and those conversations and that engagement going when you're in that conversation in the room.
And can we talk about the fact that the person doing that does not have to be the person leading the meeting?
Absolutely.
It could be anybody in the meeting. And if you're new and you're interested in the perspective of others, it's a great way to stand out in a meeting.
That's
and
right.
say, hey, Yvette, I haven't heard from you and I'm trying to learn everybody's perspective. what do you think about this? And just kind of bring them in.
Right.
That's immediate leadership, creating immediate stakeholder in that room, and potentially creating a partnership if you haven't connected with that person as much as you could have.
And it's a way to also celebrate your peers or
Yeah.
others on the call, because if you know they've done some work in a space that is relevant to the conversation and they haven't volunteered to say that, then you can say, hey, Edwina's done some really good work in this space. Can you share with us? Because maybe we can learn about that. So it's a way to celebrate each other and to be a good ally to everyone in the room. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit on that slide that I shared. It talked about the people of color, and we talked about that a little bit before, and I don't want us to get off the call without doing that because people might say, why did you call that out? And so we have heard a great deal about the impact of the pandemic to the people of color, and even with the racial issues and many conversations rising in organizations around being good allies to one another. It's been heightened and made known that people of color have been at the bottom of being considered for certain things. And I was on a call where it actually talked about black women being at the very low bottom, and so the other people who were not of color on the call started asking me how they could be better allies, And so when we talk about the impact of all the pandemic, all the 2020, all the racial issues that have been heightened, and we're coming back into the office, whether it be hybrid or everyone's in the office, that is still something that's in the air. It's still real issues that we're all wrestling with, that we're all trying to overcome, that we need to be prepared for. And Edwina, I'm going to ask you to share, because I know you shared on a panel talking about the impact of the pandemic to women of color and things like that. So if you want to just share a little bit about what we should be aware of, and I don't think we want to make it overly sensitive, but it's not something we can just sweep under the rug, in my opinion, and ignore and act like it's not happening. It's a very real thing in people's lives, and so we need to be ready to talk about it, and be allies where we can.
So are you saying from a perspective of some of the racial, social justice issues that are happening or
Right.
have happened, and how we should treat that? Is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Right. So when understanding that everything that we've gone through over the last year, right,
Mhm.
it's impacted people of color very differently, right? And so when people come back into the workplace, what should we expect? How can we help make that an easier transition?
Well, hopefully they're gonna come back, because I mean that's one of the concerns that especially women
Hmm.
who have childcare responsibilities, elderly care responsibilities, and how can they come back until schools are back in place and all of that. And so if someone, we're praying that, and it's not only women of color, it's just all women in general,
Right.
that are facing this. And some experts are saying it's pushing women back even further than where we were because of this particular pandemic and what it's done, where some women have had to leave the workplace. They were
Hmm.
career oriented, doing what they had to do,
Hmm.
but when this hit, they couldn't handle it from a perspective of their family and work.
Right.
So, one of those things. But as these people of color come back into the workplace, it's about really listening. I would say
Hmm.
if you're a good ally, listens. A good ally, shows empathy, get an understanding of what the experiences that this particular person is going through, right?
Hmm.
And you can only do that when you're an active listener and you're observant of others, just listening. And I don't mean listening to figure out what you're going to say next, but really seeking to understand versus trying to be understood. There is a huge difference. And
Hmm.
getting involved, just being that person that they can lean on, that they can share with. I think that improves things because, you think about even the Asian community, some of the things that they're
Right.
going through right now,
Right.
I mean, they're fearful, especially for elderly Asian people because of what's happening right now. That's not a good feeling.
Right.
So it's all
Absolutely.
of us. So what can we do to support? And that's a question that you can ask your colleague. What can I do to support you in this time?
Right.
And my thing is, from an ally perspective, allyship to me is using your point of influence and power to support someone else, to stand up for someone else, to speak out about something that's not right for someone else. It's putting yourself out there. Or in the words of Senator John Lewis, get in some good trouble.
Right.
I will tell you that I think the very first thing everybody needs to think about is that none of us are going back the same
Same.
person we left.
Mm-hmm.
We've
That's
all, the world
Same.
has lived through some stuff.
Mhm.
And we're different people now. And it's almost a time to get to know one another again with a different and more open perspective, hopefully. I we've all of us have stories about it's almost 2 years. I mean, if you really think about it, it's June. Maybe folks are starting to go back to the office in September, October, just based on what you see in the news and everything. So it's going to be almost 2 years before we're back to some semblance of seeing people in person. And you're just not going to be the same friend. It's not going to be the same coworker. It's not going to be the same person that sat next to you that you used to just cut up some time with because they've lived through some stuff. So empathy and sympathy are the two key words and should be the two key words for 2021 and 2022 because we're all going to be healing.
And beyond, right? Because our
Yeah.
world has shifted and it's not going to go back. So anybody who thinks we're going back to anything that we used
No,
to have,
back to normal. And there's no new normal either. Let's stop that.
we're not going back. We're going forward. So let's go forward together. Let's go forward together and helping each other and listening to each other, really being those allies, really supporting and sponsoring each other as we should anyway, right? To
Yes.
David's point, the pandemic sent us all home together. So there wasn't like, oh, this group got sent home and no, we all were put on the bench at the same time, and what we do on all coming off that bench is going to be really, really, really critical. So, any other thoughts around? And what about innovation? That was one of the things that we had there too. How can we be more creative and even come up with better solutions for our services or our products as we are hybrid? Has that changed or has that been able to even accelerate because of where we are?
Okay, so I was going to make one quick comment, although this might actually apply to what you just said, Yvette. So Edwina made the comment about, which I always like, uh, those people who listen only to want to respond and put their message out there versus listening to hear you. Two different things. So the more we can do the latter, listen to hear you and listen to hear your perspective, I think is going to be better. But that also speaks to how are we going to be innovative. So one of the things I did last couple weeks ago, I guess in Atlanta, was I said, I do not want any of you filtering your ideas before they come out of your head. I don't want any of you rejecting ideas from your fellow leaders. This is about idea generation. So idea generation means even if it's just half baked, get it out there. And then Edwina can build on it. Delpha can build on it. Yvette can build on it. Oh, okay. Now we have a great idea.
Exactly.
And that's how you do that. You have to build on each other's perspectives and each other's ideas. And that was really an idea generation situation, but it's all about innovation as well. And that whole session was about how do we go back to work post pandemic? Do we go back to the way life used to be? I don't think so. Is it the extreme of 100% remote, or is it somewhere in between? And what do we consider all along the way?
Yeah.
You know, Yvette, the real test of innovation is this going back to work. And I say that hesitantly because none of us stopped working. Unless you had something tragic happen or you lost your job, everybody's been engaged in some way, shape, or form, whether it's with family, friends, or in the office or not in the office. But really, the test for the employers in innovation is how you manage this process, because it's going to require flexibility. And, there's articles all the time, and there's folks that say, and I won't name names, there's folks that say, everybody get back in the office right now. This is just not great. Everybody just get back. I'm glad you're saying that. That's you being human. And then there's the other flip side of people saying, I don't ever want to go back. I think it's great to not ever go back. And I want to live in Fiji while I'm doing my work on Eastern Standard Time somehow.
Right.
I want to figure that out. And it's the tolerance for innovation, ideation, and the push of the envelope is going to be resoundingly obvious in the way employers treat this scenario that we're in today. And forget innovation in the sense of what are the employees bringing in and all of that, and it's in the water cooler. Employers, think about your innovation in your cultural strategy, in your ability to be flexible with your employees, in your ability to be flexible with their families, to be flexible within yourself. And I'm not for either camp. I think both camps work. I think depending on your culture, your industry, and your tolerance level, you'll have to think about those things. But what I really think is going to happen is going to be a shift in innovation because people are shifting roles today. There's a lot of movement in the marketplace. A lot of people have found different passions that they're interested in during this time of confinement. And so that's going to be the real spark of innovation. It's going to be people working in completely different industries because they can.
Right. And the innovation on how, to your point, how people lead, not only people to fulfill the vision of the organization, but how do you lead and still lead people to their better selves, right?
Yes.
How do you help people still achieve their goals and their visions, and how do you even get to know that? Because we've talked about, I don't have that connection in the physical connection, but you still owe it to those people who are around you to figure out, where do you want to go, where are you really trying to get to, and so that we can create this win-win scenario where you're helping the organization move forward while I'm helping you move forward in the same space. That's going to take new creative leadership, which we talked about last time when we talked about transformation versus transactional, right? You're really going to have to serve and help transform those people in order to make your people that you're working with, the people that you're bringing alongside you, in order to transform your services and products.
It's interesting that regardless of whatever topic there is, whatever the subject is, it always comes back to leadership.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It just comes back to leadership. So even through this, we were going home for 2 weeks. Remember that? Oh, we'll be home for 2 weeks. So when people left the office, maybe they took what they needed to do their job. Maybe they didn't. But 2 weeks later, we weren't back there, right?
No.
And what you found is people did learn how to be creative and get their things done. There were people that thought, like, I can't do my job without printing. Guess what? You learned how to do it without printing. Right? And have been successful doing that. But I'm always interested, and I think about it. it always comes back to the leadership every
It
single
does.
time.
Yeah.
You know, that is funny, Edwina. I remember walking around that office in Atlanta, Georgia, a week and a half ago on May 3rd, and I thought, wow, it looks like he and she just left yesterday because their office looks the same. Um, and uh, so anyway, so that was kind of fascinating and kind of strange in an example, but it's good stuff, and it's going to be a trying time as we develop, and I think most companies would benefit from saying, okay, we don't have to go to extreme tomorrow. We can take some baby steps and we can try some things out. If they work, great. If we need to evolve differently, okay, we'll do that. We'll see what works for us and what doesn't work for us, and we'll go accordingly. But I think there's going to be a desire from the employee population for some immediate recognition of, we've been doing this for now how many months, and I think we can continue to do it. So let's continue to do it to some version, okay, whatever that version is.
David, I love that you
So
said what's good, what works for us. I think us is the key word there.
Hmm?
Us means everybody in your workplace. It's not just a few people. And I really I find, and I'm really grateful for this, more and more folks are being heard. The us is getting bigger. So hopefully everybody's experiencing that. And if you're not, really think about where you are. But like that us is the most important part. And that was to me, just looking across industries, that's been the biggest lesson that I've observed, that we're all in it together and we really mean it. And going back is about all of us in it together.
This has been a fascinating conversation. Obviously, we could talk about this all night. I want to thank Champagne for saying that comment
Yeah.
that she gave. Figure out
Yeah,
what drives your staff and feed their drive.
yeah.
Absolutely. So we're running towards the end of our time here. Just wanted to let you know that we will be back next month, and we're focusing on the leadership now that we've talked about it, the new look, right? So we're looking to bring on some other key leaders that we are connected with to share in that conversation next month, June 10th, at 7 p.m. I want to quickly be able to make us, and I mean quickly, so that we are done within the next minute or so. I don't know if we can make it. We do have a webinar coming up. Edwina's conducting five myths and expressed truths about employee resource groups. So she's going to be doing that on Thursday, June 27th at 7 p.m. I do have a book coming out. Hope it will be released on May 24th. No Bosses Allowed, Lead to Serve and Transform. And we want to also give Edwina any other things we want to share as we're sharing our information. Delpha, do you have anything coming up quickly?
I just released a new vlog last week, so go check it out at Delpha D. And those are coming fast and furious because our world is changing and there's a lot of questions that need to get answered.
And David, anything coming up for you?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, not at this time.
Awesome. And Edwina, what's coming up for you?
I am dissertating. That's
Yay!
nothing else. If you're not a transcript that needs to be coded, leave me alone.
When do you hope to be done,
I'm
Edwina?
on a 120-day plan, and it's pretty.
Nice.
And so I can't go to bed until things are done on a daily basis. It's crazy, but it's just going to be bad for a couple of weeks, and then it'll be done. Over.
So we have a doctor in the house.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Love it.
Yes. So I want to thank everyone here, Adelpha, David, Edwina. You always make the conversation so intriguing and so invigorating energy. So please come back next month. I know you
Yes.
guys will because I think you have fun too. For everybody who's been listening to us, thank you so much for joining us. We will. If you want to join that webinar, you'll get a link. I'll put it in there where you can sign up so we can get you the link to the webinar. And have a great evening. And until next month, please continue to stay safe because it's not over yet. And we want you to come back and visit us next month. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so, so much. Bye bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.